Listen, if that doesn't get you pumped up for signing day, I don't know what will. Welcome, everyone, to the Look Live Podcast, National Signing Day edition, one of the best days of the year. I'm Maria Martin, and joining me, Jake Roos, our recruiting expert from UGAsports.com, and we have a lot to talk about. For the third straight year, UGA has the #1 class in the entire country. Five-star Broderick Jones, he helped seal the deal by picking Georgia today. The Dogs also picking up a few other linemen, including Sedrick Van Pran. Matt Luke, the new offensive line coach, getting it done for the Dogs. And Kirby, he's pretty thrilled.
What are you doing to develop the ones you're signing now is more my concern. You know, it'd be foolish for me to sit here and think that two of these tackles we just signed are going to walk in here and play. You guys will print that, but I'm also realist that that's probably not going to happen. Based on the history of the SEC, you do the study, how many freshman offensive tackles have played.
Okay, so obviously a lot to dive in here. A great day for Kirby Smart. He had a great initial signing day, but sealed the deal today. Let's just talk about initial reaction on what the Dogs did today.
You know, I thought overall it was a really successful day for Georgia. There were two main goals, and that was keeping Broderick Jones and keeping Sedrick Van Pran. Right. Everything else they did outside of that was just icing on the cake, and they got some great icing, don't get me wrong. A couple extra guys. You get Dejan Edwards in the fold, MCCONKEY. Surprise commitment from Cameron McKinney this morning out of Collins Hill High School over there in Lawrenceville. So, and the flip of Duran Branch, an old Miss commit out of the Louisiana area. Decides he's going to go with the Bulldogs over the Rebels. I was a little bit surprised by that one. Not totally, though. Yeah,
and, you know, for some of you that are like, who are these guys? We're going to break all of them down for you, all of you Dogs fans that are looking forward to who they've signed today. But I do want to start offensive line because that was a focus for Georgia with 3 guys declaring for the draft, and then you have one going to Tennessee, Cade Mays. There is an obvious immediate need at offensive lineman. Broderick being one of the biggest. He was incredible for staying with the Dogs. He's been a long-time commit, ultimately signing today. How huge is that for Georgia?
It was massive and really speaks very highly of Matt Luke and what he's able to do on the recruiting trail. This was a guy who was able to come in and in a month build a relationship with the nation's top offensive tackle, a guy that you really couldn't afford to lose in this class, given the need, as you said, to restock on the offensive line. But he did it with several guys. We saw him build a quick one with Tate Ratledge from Rome. We saw it with Sedrick Van Pran as well. They were familiar during his Old Miss days. So overall, it really speaks highly of him, and really, I think, kind of gives you a window into how some things might change on Georgia's offensive line. Some more athletic, maybe more slender guys than what we're used to.
Which Broderick is slender right now because he's playing basketball, but fear not, Georgia fans, the kid is huge. I also talked to him today about sticking with the Dogs, and he had an interesting thing to say. Okay, so Broderick, first of all, this was a long time coming for you to ultimately sign with Georgia. What was the main reason that you went with the Dogs?
You know, Georgia just always, ever since they started recruiting me, they always treated me like family, and that was a big part to my recruitment. So, you know, I just went with my heart and my mind, and, you know, Georgia was home.
What do you like about what Kirby Smart has done and what Matt Luke brings to the table as a new offensive line coach?
You know, Kirby Smart has always been a successful coach, you know, head coach. He's always been a successful head coach. So, you know, I believe once I get there, you know, we can get the ball rolling. I believe we can get things done.
What's this all been like for you? I mean, like you said up there, everybody kind of knew which way you were leaning, but what were your kind of thoughts going through your head here these last couple of weeks?
You know, it's been a tough process, you know, always, you know, stressing, trying to make the right decision. So, you know, just always keep your heart and mind open to what you feel is best and, you know, go with it.
So who did you call to give the good news over in Athens? Who did you talk to, and what was their response when you told them you were going?
Dog Nation was here, so I didn't have to call nobody. Everybody already knew.
When did you make up your mind, and were you ever kind of going back and forth at all, or were you, you know, pretty much 100% Georgia the whole way?
Even though I was committed to Georgia for so long, I always kept my recruitment open. So, you know, I would say after, you know, the visit, I went on the visit, I saw what I needed to see, heard what I needed to hear, and we went from there.
Obviously, close with Coach Sam Pittman. What was it like building that relationship with Coach Luke, and what are your thoughts about going and playing for him at Georgia?
I was always happy for Coach Pittman and his Rays. or his head coaching job, I was always happy. I was never sad that he left, even though we had a good relationship. I was happy for him because he's being able to better himself and, you know, do what he loves to do. So I was never mad at him about it. You know, he couldn't tell me, but it was okay. I ended up getting a chance to talk to him. You know, I went up there to see him, and it was a good experience.
Did any of those early draft decisions from some of those young juniors play a role in your decision to end up sticking with Georgia?
Everybody played a big part in my recruitment. So I would say, you know, coaches talk to me every day, you know, making sure I'm okay, you know, make sure I'm not stressed out, you know, make sure everything is going well, and, you know, we went from there. It's great being able to be a part of a great program and coming from a great program with great coaches and going into a program with more great coaches and more staff and, you know, more to offer. So I'm just ready to get it done. When Coach Pittman went to Arkansas, it made me wanted to go see what he had to offer because I had already had a relationship with him. So I wanted to keep it going and, you know, see what he had to offer and, you know, go from there.
So the #1 offensive tackle in the country, huge for the Dogs, a 5-star. And what I really like about him is he was honest and he said, you have no idea how hungry I am to play football. So he's going to have a chance to at least come in and compete right away.
Yeah, certainly. There's no question about it. I mean, given the immediate need Georgia has with Isaiah Wilson and Andrew Thomas leaving for the NFL draft early, you've got to restock those bookend tackles. Be interesting to see if some of the upperclassmen have a hand in it, but you've got to think that out of the gate, Broderick's going to be in the mix.
Let's continue on the offensive line because it was such a big emphasis today. The #1 center left in the country, Sedrick Van Pran, who is a 4-star. What kind of guy do you think Georgia is getting with him?
Sedrick's a very interesting prospect because he's, you know, a little bit on the smaller side when you think of how Georgia's recruited in the past. He definitely doesn't look like an Isaiah Wilson, you know, 6'9",
right,
400 pounds like they've been getting some of these guys. 6'4", 275, 280, but a guy who moves exceptionally well at that size.
Which is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And they love him at that center position. You're going to be out there commanding the offense, calling checks, things like that. They've been on him for a long time as well. And a guy that Sam Pittman got on early. Matt Luke was able to seal the deal, and just another huge one for Georgia.
You gave the perfect segue for what I want to talk about next because, you know, there's movement in coaching staffs all the time, but Sam Pittman leaving for Arkansas was huge because he played such a big role in both of those recruitments. Matt Luke having to come in right away. Kirby Smart talked about that today. It was important to get Luke entrenched in the offense, and he did that very quickly. How impressed were you that Matt Luke was able to make sure these kids are sticking with the Dogs?
I was impressed, but I will say Matt Luke had to do that, all right?
Yes,
He was not brought in to lose those kids, for sure. This was a situation where—
high pressure.
Yeah, right. He knew off the bat that he had to bring those kids in. And really, I think Kirby knew what he was getting from Matt Luke when he hired him onto the staff. I thought it was a brilliant hire by Kirby to bring in a guy with SEC experience, head coaching experience at that, offensive line experience, OC experience. He kind of runs the gamut. He's a guy who's recruited a lot of these guys in this class as well. So kudos to Matt Luke, huge hire for Georgia, and made sure that people got to know it quick.
Yeah, and I've talked to former Ole Miss players that played for Matt Luke who have all said he's a player's coach, which is incredibly important, especially when it comes to recruiting. And he's a guy that played football. He played on an offensive line before in college, so good for him. What do you think the expectations are for the offensive line this year? We know they're high, obviously, but what do they need to do to make sure that we're impressed with these kids?
I think the biggest thing is to get some guys who gel quickly. That's got to be the biggest thing for Georgia, because even last year they struggled with continuity across the offensive line. A lot of injuries had guys kind of popping in and out. I think that you've got to get a set where it's 5 guys and you know who it is. And like you said, with the kind of turnover they're having, you really need that to come together quickly over spring and fall practice.
You know, one thing Broderick said to me too, I just thought about it when you said that. He said the reason why he feels so confident in Kirby Smart and their staff is he's looked at the success that offensive linemen have had. And you look at 3 guys that are going to the NFL, they can clearly develop some alignment.
Yeah, not so bad, right? You know, and Sam Pittman, look, he played a great hand in that, but you've got to think Matt Luke, another guy who's going to be able to continue that progression. Like I said, that head coaching experience is going to go a long way. I think it's going to be like having a Kirby Smart on the offense.
Let's piggyback off the Kirby Smart thing for 1 second, because there's expectations for Kirby Smart. There have been for a long time, but when you have the 3rd straight #1 recruiting class in the country, he said he doesn't care, by the way. I find that very hard to believe, solely because you do care. That's a great accomplishment, but it's not a great accomplishment until you see some results on the field.
Yeah, no question about it. Look, Kirby Smart said last year, I don't care about this. I'd trade all these #1 classes for one national championship. I think he wants both, personally. If it doesn't matter to him, he's really not showing that. But like you said, you've got to be able to translate it onto success on the field. And the fact of the matter is, you're not going to be able to keep this recruitment rolling as heavily if you don't start producing at that level. Now, luckily for Georgia, you've had that national championship experience here recently. Sugar Bowl win, Rose Bowl win. Those are big, big national wins, and they've really helped Georgia on the recruiting trail nationally.
And Kirby's not afraid to play freshmen either, which I think is a very important thing to point out, because you're looking at all of these stars, all of these kids that they've signed. They signed 5 5-stars and 14 4-stars. Well, some of them may be playing, which I think is important to bring up.
Yeah, they definitely have no fear of doing that. I mean, Kirby Smart, when he says best man plays, he means it. It's not a situation, you saw it some with Mark Richt, where it was, let's honor the older guys, the seniors, it's their turn. Kirby Smart doesn't care. If you're practicing how he wants, you're doing what he wants, you're going to be the guy who's on the field. And I think that it's a big appeal to these guys, especially those 5-star guys who say, look, I could go anywhere, but I can also beat out anybody.
Speaking of character and things that Kirby Smart is very interested in, he is interested in character. MCCONKEY signing with UGA today. Specifically, when he talked about him, he talks about the character that he has. He's one of those guys that you add to the roster to bring that around.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, MCCONKEY, a kid that I had to get to know quick because he came on Georgia's radar kind of late.
Right.
But I think this is a situation for Georgia where you get both ends of the spectrum. Great athlete, but also a great young man. 4.0 GPA, a guy who does it all in the classroom, exceptionally respectful, just by all accounts, a very, very fine young man and a very good athlete. As I said, I told people, go watch the tape on this young man. Great, great athlete out of the wide receiver position. Played a lot of quarterback for North Murray as well.
To give you a little bit of an insight on what this whiteout is really all about, we spoke to him earlier today right after he signed with the Dogs.
All right, lad, so before we get into the football stuff, I just want to, first of all, lad. Is it short? Is it short for anything?
No, sir. It's my middle name. My first name's Andrew.
Okay, but you go by lad, 2 Ds.
Yes, sir.
Because we had some theories going around the 11 Alive newsroom. My guess was maybe it was short for Gladiator.
No, sir.
No?
No, nothing for just lad.
Have you heard of the movie Gladiator?
I have.
Have you seen it?
I think I have a while back, but I can't remember it too well.
Okay, because we went through this took us into a deep Gladiator rabbit hole, and then we also discovered, because you were born in what year?
2001.
Okay, so I still feel old, but Gladiator came out in 2000, so we're like, has he even seen? Does he know about this? I mean, because I have it on DVD, and it's one of those movies for me, top 5 movie.
I'll have to watch it again then.
I mean, definitely, it's one of those that kind of gets the juices flowing. And get personal here because that's what we do here. But it's one of those movies. When I got a girl, I'm trying to I got to throw it on, and however she reacts to it, it's gonna let me know everything I need to know about it. It's kind of like a barometer for me. It's one
kind
of
of
those
little tests for
it.
it.
Yeah. Look, if she's not into it, no. But if, you got to. It's one of those movies you got to lock into.
Yes, sir.
But no. So obviously, a lot of exciting stuff here with Georgia. Georgia offered late. Probably the biggest school to
yes,
offer
sir,
you. Before Georgia, though, what schools were you considering, just so people can kind of get an idea of?
Really, it was like Furman, Jacksonville State, UTC, Army West Point. Those were my visits I'd taken, and then I was planning to go to Furman. And then on Sunday night before, Georgia offered me, Coastal offered me. And then Monday was Georgia, and Tuesday was Vandy. So it kind of.
Did you even think
I mean, I'd been talking to him a little bit, and they would have been messaging me, and I kind of thought about it, like this may happen, this could happen. And then when it really did, it was crazy.
And then when they're talking to you, are they talking like, hey, if you want to come here, you walk on, we'd love to have you on, or is it like?
No, they were just kind of talking to me about the scholarships they have and everything, and we're just really talking like we really love you, we really love your film, and just kind of really talking. Then came out, and they said they were coming to my game, and then I figured out it kind of really got serious.
Were you keeping the hope alive as you're on those visits to Furman, and
I mean, obviously it was kind of in the back of my head. My brother always told me, he said, be patient, be patient. I promise you, I know you're going to get a big one, be patient. But I mean, those schools were great, so I knew wherever I went, if Georgia didn't offer me, if I would have went to UTC, Furman, Army West Point, I knew I would have been successful there and had a great career. So I wasn't worried about, Georgia needs to offer me, Georgia needs to offer me. but it was in the back of my head, like, that'd be special if it happened.
I mean, football, obviously you're a great football player. You have, the film, but it's about more than that for you. It's about, you're really one of those guys that values education and put a lot into it. So give the people an idea of what you've done here and kind of what you want to keep doing on the academic side too.
I've been taking dual enrollment classes through Dalton State since my sophomore year. So this past year was my first time full time on campus. So I didn't have any classes here. So I took 5 classes at Dalton State, and really that was just to get my associate's degree. That's something I set up my sophomore year. Me and a couple buddies that all play sports. We're like, we want to do this. We want academics to be a priority because we want to get into the school wherever we end up going. So that's what we did, and we set for it, and we're all going to achieve it.
Man, and I mean, you're saying you want to go to school, and by the time you're done your 4 years, you want to have your master's.
Yes, sir.
In finance.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to be the guy. Look, I'll trust you with my money. Look, I don't even need you to have it. Look, you can tell me what to do with my money already. But I mean, do you realize how special that is and how rare of a quality that is to put such a value on education the way you have?
I mean, it's just.
It sounds crazy because everyone goes to school and everyone. I mean, but to put that emphasis the way you have.
I mean, it's just something I've always been about. Since
is that your parents? Is that you?
I mean, my parents have always kind of been on me. Like, you need to get your academics. Like,
my parents were on me, and I could tell you it didn't work out the same way.
I really have just always been the kid. Like, if I make a bad grade, I don't like it. So I like to succeed in everything I do. So
what hurts more, bad grade, bad play?
It's a different kind of hurt.
Which hurts more?
Probably have to be a bad play because the grade's on me, but the play's on everybody else.
So. Oh, there we go. So you're going to be one of those guys that's playing receiver at Georgia, slot receiver.
Yes, sir.
When you look at what the guys that are on Georgia's roster and kind of what they have, how do you think you fit in to what they do?
I mean, with the new offense, Coach Monken coming in and spreading it out, I think playing that slot position and being able to just wiggle around and find the openings and make something after the catch, and then in the return game, hopefully go in there and make an impact.
One last one for you before I let you go. I'm gonna put you on the spot for a second.
Yes,
in your 4 years, Georgia gonna win a championship?
Yes, sir.
National championship,
yes,
not
sir.
SEC champion. I'm talking the big one.
Yes, sir. Soon, definitely.
All right.
Thanks to Alex Glaze for the interview. And obviously these kids are all very hungry right now, but when you're looking at him and you're thinking, okay, Furman, UTC, what did Georgia see in him specifically? New offensive coordinator Todd Monken does see what?
I think that he sees a guy that looks a lot like Adam Humphries, who played for them at Tampa Bay. Had a lot of success there with the Bucs in that offense, and that was a very high-powered passing offense that Todd Monken put together. They're looking for some help in the slot with Dominic Blaylock going down with a late injury. I think MCCONKEY will be able to help there. You
can tell he's got a good work ethic too. Now, one thing that we do want to transition to is there was somewhat of a need for a running back in the future for Georgia. There was a 5-star running back that ultimately had signed with Georgia. What happened with Zach Evans was the letter of intent didn't get pushed through by Georgia, so a lot of drama has circulated around the 5-star running back out of Texas. And I'm not going to say that Kirby Smart was directly talking about him today, but it's possible that he did somewhat mention him at the end of his press conference.
More every year, more each and every year. Like, it should never be the only thing, but it's definitely the most important thing. And the older I get, the more wiser I get, and the more you realize that chasing guys that don't believe in the same principles and values of your university and of your program, they're just not worth it. I mean, there's too much time spent on guys that if you're having to chase them around, it's just not worth it. I mean, take the guys that want to be there. You go play with the guys that want to be there, and number one, you'll enjoy your job day to day. Your staff will enjoy it more, but so will the other players. So it's very important to us.
This can be said of a lot of different kids, so it's not just Zach Evans, but there's been a lot of issues with Zach Evans. It's a lot of the reason why Georgia didn't want to dip their toe in the waters of signing him, even though he was insanely talented. What do we know about Zach Evans? What's the latest with that?
Well, if anybody tells you they know anything, they're lying. All right, first off, don't believe anything you hear. I think that it's a really wide open situation for Zach. Look, with him having signed his national letter of intent with Georgia, he can't do that again. So he's essentially a free agent until he shows up on a campus. He's not going to be able to sign anything that legally binds him to a university. it's going to be quite a wild ride. I don't think that we've heard the last of Zachary Evans, but maybe as Georgia fans that they have.
Yeah, unfortunately, things shook out the way that they did with the Dogs and with Zach, and he should land somewhere. We just really don't know where that is.
Yeah, and I caution people to not to be too disappointed about it, because you replaced him with a guy, Dejan Edwards, out of Colquitt County, who's a tremendous running back in his own right, great hands out of the backfield. I think he's a guy who's going to surprise a lot of people.
I think so too, and you know who will surprise a lot of people? I think Georgia Tech in the next couple of years. Jeff Collins is doing a lot of great things over there. You know, it's going to be his second year at the helm, and the number 25 signing class in the country. Here we are, the Yellow Jackets pushing hard. They did some big things today. Let's talk about ultimately getting a 4-star to sign with them this afternoon, and what you think about Georgia Tech.
Jahmyr Gibbs was a huge pickup. For them to be able to keep him home, you've got to love everything about that. And for them to go back-to-back classes with Jamius Griffin last year, follow it up this year with Gibbs, I think it's a tremendous pickup for them, and really kind of gives you a sense of the direction this program's heading. They're revitalizing that offense. They picked up 2 great quarterbacks in this class as well, in Jeff Sims as well as Tucker Gleason. So I think that they're taking a lot of steps in the right direction. Tech's on the up and up. They're certainly not recruiting at Georgia's level just yet, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Definitely a totally different scheme that Jeff Collins is working with, so he's trying to recruit guys to play for that scheme specifically. Now, we talked to Jahmyr Gibbs earlier today when we were at his signing day, and he's very excited to play for the Yellow Jackets.
Mostly the coaches, they really helped me throughout this process. Coach Choice, we built a great relationship throughout this year. It's close to home, so my friends and family come see me. Yeah, and overall, they're just a great coaching staff. I like the players too. They're a really good group of guys.
What was the biggest factor that went into your decision?
Coach Choice.
Is that simple to your relationship with Coach? So for you also, with Tech going through what they're going through, how special is it for you to be a part of what they're trying to do?
Very special. We're going to change it. It's going to be changed.
What does that look like for you? When you say you're going to change it?
A lot more wins.
What you were like?
It was kind of shaky. Yeah, it was between probably them and Florida. Probably battling a lot, but my relationship with Coach Choice just summed it up.
I'm not going to lie to you. I really like that he said a lot more wins.
You got to think Dan Mullen's feeling the heat after that one too. It's not often Georgia Tech gets to beat out an SEC program for a kid of this caliber.
And he even said he was shaky between the decision of Florida and Georgia Tech. So good on Jeff Collins and company for snagging a 4-star running back to add to that class. Do we think? Let's ask the question that Gibbs said. Do we think they're going to get a lot more wins? They got a tough home schedule.
They definitely do, and I don't know that it's going to come this year, but this is a situation where you're reinventing that offense, as you said, and so it's going to take some time to get those pieces in place. I think they had a good class last year. This class is even better. It's going to take some time to get to where Georgia Tech wants to be, certainly, but you've got to appreciate what Jeff Collins is doing if you're a Yellow Jackets fan, because he's really taking this program a lot closer to where it used to be.
Yeah, and he's really trying to amp up just being at Georgia Tech, you know, 404, the culture, everything that he says. He gets kids really hype, and I think he does a good job at getting kids to come in there. All right, final thoughts. I'm going to ask you the question that everyone wants to know. Georgia, when do they win a national championship?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Don't we all wish we knew?
I will say that this year it sets up really interestingly for Georgia. I don't know that I necessarily feel that they're going to take that step this year, but with all the new faces there, you've got 1 year with Jamie Newman. You've got to assume that's going to be a huge motivator for the transfer quarterback from Wake Forest. I think that you've got a lot of guys looking to prove themselves and a lot of experience returning on that defense, which was one of the best in the nation last year. So it's some interesting things shaping up for 2020.
Also interesting, we totally forgot to mention there are transfers that actually will make an impact on this team. Jamie Newman being one of them, the transfer quarterback out of Wake Forest, and also Trey McKitty. I want you to touch on him, the tight end out of FSU, for 1 second, because these 2 graduate transfers should make an immediate impact for Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia is counting on that, most certainly. McKitty, a huge pickup for Georgia. I thought as important as Newman, because while you didn't have a clear idea at quarterback, you knew you were lacking at the tight end position.
Yep.
They had to go out and go get a kid like this. I love it to pair with Darnell Washington, the 5-star out of Las Vegas. This is a good opportunity for him to learn under McKitty as well. So, like I said, some really interesting faces on Georgia's team. Fans will have to get fresh, refreshed on the faces for sure.
Georgia's the #1 signing class in the country, but do you give them an A-, an A+?
A+, I think. And I mean, #1 certainly puts them there, but like I said, they accomplished their two biggest things to do today. And for me, that's what put them over the top. Keeping Broderick Jones and Sedrick Van Pran after losing Sam Pittman with only about a month for Matt Luke to build that relationship, really knocked it out of the park.
All right, well, the pressure is on now for Georgia because 3 straight #1 signing classes for Kirby Smart. It's going to be interesting to see how they do. I think they're going to do okay. For Jake Roos, I'm Maria Martin. Thank you guys for watching. We will have much more coverage on signing day, everything Georgia, Georgia Tech, and beyond on 11 Alive later today.